Okay, so this video is just a small insight into my handstand and mobility session, in which where I go through a few of the exercises in which that I'm currently doing, as well as how and why I'm doing them. In particular, at the beginning of the video, where I discuss some of the hand and wrist prep exercises. And for those who are maybe more experienced in doing this, let me know what I can do to make these videos better. So I hope you enjoy the video and see you in the next clip. This entire segment for any hand balance variation you're going to do. It's important to, I guess, understand, or at least begin to learn as well, how to distribute the load well throughout not necessarily just the wrist, but understand how to use the fingertips appropriately also. And so one of the things that you will commonly and repeatedly do prior to a hand balancing session is some variations of wrist prep, or even like finger strengthening, you might call it, or I'll more call it hand strengthening. And there's many ways to do that. The one that I'm just going to choose today looks like this, or at least my shoulder would be directly over my wrist. Fingers would be quite well spread apart, and I would try as best as I could to be externally rotated. So pits of my elbow facing as forward as they could be. Now, as you can tell, I can get them forward, but the actual difficulty lies in being able to come off your fingertip and keep them forward, because they naturally want to internally rotate, or at least mine do anyway. And so I want to try externally rotate. And as I come down, I want to actually not allow my thumb, as best as I can, to touch the floor. Come back up, come back down. Two other probably important points to consider would be, are you protracting or are you retracting too much? So I don't necessarily want to be protracting too much, as well as where your weight is. Normally it's common for people to go back like this and say it's super easy. What we're trying to do is make sure that the weight is over the wrist. So we're learning to appropriately manage the amount of, you say, load, force going through the segment of my arms, or at least going through the wrist compartment as well. So the next one I'm going to do is biasing more of the extensors of the forearm. So the first drill, really bias the flexors of this movement pattern, which is pressing down. The next one's going to give me some more awareness around what the extensors are doing, as well as potentially mobilizing, any of the tissue from my hand all the way up to the elbow. This is on real, my thumb inside here. I'm going to face this way. This one isn't necessarily related to teaching me how to bear weight into my wrist, but probably more so related to whatever you want to call it, mobilizing, stretching the extensors of my forearm. So I'm going to hit here. As well, or at least in my experience, to have a difference between the left and right side. Doing some wrist prep drills, whatever that may be, are important also to gain some insight as to what the fingertips will be doing while you're hand balancing. So we don't want them to be just flat like this, where majority of the weight is going to be placed through the wrist. We actually want almost like we almost want like a spider-like structure when we're hand balancing. This will provide me with, what would you say, a greater ability to distribute the load more evenly rather than it just going solely through the wrist and me relying a lot on my structure. And normally the end result is that usually a lot of the force gets dissipated through the wrist. Comparatively, if I start to learn how to use my fingertip here, actually means that I'm utilizing a little bit more of my function, which is maybe some of the tissue and let's say, yeah, musculature of the hand, as well as the finger flexors, and therefore alleviate some of the tension that actually goes through the palm of my wrist. Amongst a bunch of other things that may be important that may be relevant as to why I may lower the wrist a lot, but that'd be the first main thing. Cool. really good, actually I shouldn't say that. So there were definitely some good aspects in that training session, but there were some aspects in which that I didn't feel as good as I normally do. Now, as for the crab to handstand, or that weird thingamajig I do from a squat to a handstand and back down, felt really good today. I'm not sure if I was cheating the movement, but but they did feel really good, and I'm normally not able to get them very consistently, but today for some reason I was. What I did notice was that definitely on the handstand flags, on the exercise in which that I'm moving my legs side to side on the box, on the exercise that moves the box, felt very inconsistent, and that's for one or two things. One, today just was not the day for those, or two, maybe three things, but two, I'm still struggling to find position, which that means, today wasn't the day. But I'm really struggling to find good position and good lining, which means that not only do I have to put in extra muscular effort to be able to stay in that position, but that's actually it. Like, because there's going to be so much ambiguity around where I'm trying to put my feet, it means that I'm unable to pay attention to other things. And then because of that, I think I start to lose balance and have to continuously recorrect, which makes the entire process or the entire set really difficult. Something that I'm becoming increasingly aware of is the fact that this style of training, in which it involves a lot of skill and less focus on just output, say a body split type program, is that I have to be a lot more patient, and the level in which that I, approach an exercise or activity, meaning like my intensity, I approach an exercise, needs to be well managed, meaning I can't obliterate or try and come even, remotely close to failure on a lot of the exercise, because then it tends to jeopardize a lot of the session, because it is based a lot on skill. So therefore, as opposed to just the entire session being solely focused on how much muscular output I can drive or effort I can drive, it's a combination of that amongst trying to practice a skill, which can become physically and psychologically challenging, especially if the session is taking about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So for all the 12 subscribers out there, if you enjoy the content and want to see more of this style of content, let me know. So hope you liked it, and I'll catch you in the next one.